Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something that has come up since people have seen me go over to almost exclusively higher rep training for a while. And previously, people need to understand when I make this statement, my training has been mostly high reps for a very, very long time. So we need to be clear there. And what I mean by mostly, I mean at least 70% of my training has been 8 or higher reps for years, for quite a few years. So people do need a context for that. And I think when they just see the excerpts of the heavy lifting and they don't watch the vlogs, they don't realize that my training has been hypertrophy oriented for quite some time. But now that I am actually cutting down leaner, working on physique, stuff like that, I've kind of changed completely over to it for a little while because, again, I've got a lot of reasons. Psychological, I should probably make some videos on that. But the thing is, the topic comes up of how are you going to track progressive overload? Because people who have only been training a couple years are so used to being able to make, decent progress that they don't understand for really advanced lifters. We are talking about gaining ounces of muscle, right? We're not gaining 5, 6 pounds of muscle in a year anymore. It's just not happening unless you're going to run a bunch of gear. All right, I'm about to turn 47. Okay, I turned 47 coming up middle of December. At this point, I'm not trying to, add 20 pounds of muscle onto my body. And if I did, it would require, extremely large amounts of stuff. And I'm not willing to do that. So in my case, for someone like me, we're chasing the little bit of muscle we can gain. Can we gain a few ounces here, a few ounces there? Can we put a little bit of size on our arms? Right? And at this point, for me to look bigger, it's going to be honestly mostly just getting leaner and then adding the little bit of muscle that I can. So when we come over to the 10 rep sets, what people need to understand is, are they challenging? Are they challenging? If they are challenging and we're doing enough work, we're stimulating a training response. Right? In other words, are you reaching failure? Are you, within a rep or two of failure? Well, then you're getting a training stimulus. Are you getting sufficient training volume? Are we hitting enough different angles? Are we working the muscles through long ranges of motion? All right, all of these things, this is what we need to be looking at. Now, does that mean that we ignore progressive overload? No. Progressive overload will always be part of this. But progressive overload at this point in the game is usually almost a byproduct of hypertrophy. Okay? And without even necessarily chasing more weight on the bar, when we start getting to really challenging sets, doing simple stuff like saying, well, I probably only have two reps in reserve, so maybe I'll pause the last rep a little longer. You guys will see me doing quite a bit of that. We'll pause at the stretch on the bottom. We'll slow the eccentric down a little bit. Not saying we do crazy tempo work. Take stuff to where when you've got maybe 2 reps left that you make one more rep a little bit harder so that we don't get stapled. Right? So that we don't get stapled, but it brings us closer to failure. And this is stuff that as you've been training a long time, you learn how to do. Even strength athletes, powerlifters do this. It's not just for hypertrophy purposes. Right? That minor things, as long as the sets are hard, we can do minor things and make the last rep or so a little bit more challenging so that we get right up on the edge of failure without having to get there. By, again, just making it a little more difficult. And am I telling you to do your whole sets that way? No. No. And I'm not telling people to do, really bizarre tempo work. All I'm saying is a little bit of extra pause near the end. Okay? That alone adds just a little bit more difficulty, a little bit more mechanical tension at those hardest spots. Right, usually like in a stretched position or something, a little bit of pause go a long way. Okay? A little bit of pause will go a long way until you are strong enough to add weight. Now, if you're doing, 225 for sets of 10 or 315 for sets of 10, and you're using those sort of methods, a little bit of pausing here and there, maybe slow an eccentric or two down near the end, a little more squeeze, You can get away with that until you're strong enough to add weight. And then you could put another 5 pounds on. You can go up to 230. You can go up to 320, 325. Okay, this is stuff you can do over time. But people need a context. When you are an advanced lifter, unless you go on a bulk, serious bulk, and you put on 10, 15 pounds of body weight sometimes, well, it doesn't always have to be that much, but a little bit of body weight. Or you're going to add some extra stuff, and you guys know what I mean by stuff, then guess what? You're not going to see big changes. Your quality, if you're doing quality work sets on an exercise with 225, just call it what it is. All right, 225. You're doing quality rep work. And you're not going to do those other things. And you're at a point where you're like, man, if I can put on a pound of solid muscle this year, I'd be happy. How much weight do you really think you're going to add on the exercise? Okay. And we really are looking at that. When you are quite advanced, it really is a case of people putting in 6 months or a year to get a pound of new lean tissue, of actual muscle growth. Not talking about some transient storage factor, talking about actual muscle growth. You might only put 5 or 10 pounds on the bar on several of your big lifts. Your dead hang pull-ups might go from 12 reps to 13 or 14. Okay? Your 225 sets for 10 might only go up 5 pounds. Your 315 sets might only go up 5 or 10 pounds. Why? Because we're just not gaining as much muscle anymore. And I'm not saying, again, that we shouldn't care, because that still tells us a bit about where we are. But at the end of the day, as long as we're using sufficient workloads, we're reaching good quality work sets where we are working and fatiguing the muscles in the way that we want. We're going to be stimulating new training adaptations. Okay, we're going to be slowly getting bigger. But this is, again, for the advanced lifter. This is the advanced lifter. Not talking about you guys who've been in the gym for years. Okay? I've been doing this a real long time. You know, and people have said lately with what I'm doing, they're like, wow, you actually, you know, in spite of the loose skin from the old weight loss, you're like the best we've seen you look. And that's kind of the point. As I'm chipping that away, you're seeing the density from the years and years and years and years of heavy lifting. You reach that muscle maturity, you know. But at this point, it's just going to be, can I gain a little muscle here and there, right? That is the name of the game when you've been doing this a long time. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.